I know best, of course, the United States, and we've had a very weak recovery after a very deep recession. In terms of GDP, we are back to where we were before the crisis, but not in GDP per person. We're well below that, and employment is well below the peak or its trend line. Especially if you look at the employment to population ratio, it's barely budged since the big decline during the crisis. In terms of inequality, the work by my colleague at Berkeley, Emmanuel Saez, shows that the gains of the last few years have been entirely captured by the top 1%, or top 1/10 of 1%. So I would not say we've had strong growth, nor that we've had very equitable growth. The first problem in the United States is that we need more aggregate demand. That would bring down the unemployment rate and would help wages to grow again. Wages have not come back from where they were. Beyond that, raising the minimum wage, which has been proposed, and more generally bringing people in who have been excluded. For example, immigration reform. Those would be a start. They're probably necessary but not sufficient to have more equitable growth. Broader measures, I could give you a wish list. I really think some reform of how CEOs are paid is very important. There's been very little movement on that. There's shareholders now have a say on pay, but it's not binding. I mean, a lot of people are concerned that our labor force is not educated enough in the United States, and we have fallen behind relative to other countries. That's especially true, I think, in the middle parts of the education distribution. So we should be doing more in that area. We should be strengthening the safety net rather than tearing it apart. And we should make it easier for workers to choose their representatives, unions. That's very important. And there's a lot of activity at the local level of this sort. In my home city of San Francisco, we have instituted quite a few labor standards and mandates, which have raised the living standards for the bottom, say 15% of the population or more, and given everybody health access, given them paid leave. These are measures that have not yet been adopted in most of the United States. We do know that raising minimum wages raises living standards without hurting employment.